I have no idea why I decided that the perfect time to turn my dishwasher on was gonna be right before I started filming. But, you know, mistakes were made. Sorry if you can hear the dishwasher. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Isabella and I make videos on interior design, a little bit of life blabbering thrown in there. And if you're not new here, those things are still true. In today's video, we're going to be talking about sustainability or lack thereof when it comes to interior design, especially on social media, where the main types of content that I think are popular and people watch tend to be apartment makeover, bedroom makeover type videos, or videos telling people what to buy and contributing to this cycle of overconsumption. I wanted to talk about some of the ways that home design content is surprisingly bad for the environment, and also talk about some of the mistakes that I personally made when making my content, when designing my flat, when doing all of these makeovers, and hopefully how I and you can avoid those mistakes in the future. Before we get started, I wanted to point out the fact that this video was inspired by a brilliant video that Lena Norms did on her channel called "The Home Decoration Industry is a Mess, but Here's How We Fix It." She posted this video about a month ago and I will be linking it in the comments. Her video is excellent, very well researched, and talks a lot about her sustainability efforts when she was decorating her own home. This, I think, is a bit more interior design, YouTube, social media focused, but I would highly, highly recommend watching her video. So on to the meat of the video. One of the biggest problems that I've seen in interior design YouTube is the promotion of fast furniture. Every time IKEA comes out with a new collection, I see lots of the interior design people I follow talking about the collection, telling people what they should buy, what they shouldn't buy, or even for something more high-end that I would still consider fast furniture because of the way the products are made and the materials that they're made of and the way it keeps up with current trend cycles. Something like Emma Chamberlain's collaboration with West Elm. I saw loads of people talking about that, loads of people who had bought pieces, telling their audiences what they should and shouldn't buy. I totally understand people wanting to change up their style, and you do need some furniture in your home to live, and also I think it's fine to enjoy things like new furniture, but you can't be buying stuff from a new collection every single time it comes out. In the UK, more than 22 million pieces of furniture are sent to landfill every year. And a lot of this is from fast furniture brands like IKEA, because these brands aren't necessarily designed to last for a long time. They're just designed to be convenient and relatively affordable. These pieces are usually made of a mixture of things like MDF, particle board, and plastic, so they aren't very sturdy. There's literally a fly over my head in this video. Sorry, please go away. Anyway, they are designed to not be very sturdy, and with the use of materials that they use, they are not very durable and don't last for a very long time. A New York Times article that I'll link below, which quoted Dina McDonough, who is a professor of industrial design at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, stated that many pieces of furniture from brands like IKEA or Wayfair are only really designed to last for 5 years, and that's like not a sustainable way to be furnishing your house. The article mentioned that in the US, furniture waste has grown 450% since 1960, and a lot of this fast furniture can't even be properly broken down and recycled because it's not just made of wood and metal. Fast furniture is easy and convenient, hence the name. And so when people on interior design YouTube are trying to stick to schedules and they're content creators and that's their job, this fucking fly, oh my god. They usually don't have weeks or months to wait for a furniture piece. Similarly, ordinary people need a bed to sleep on, they need a desk to work on, and a wardrobe to keep their things in. Fast furniture can often be a quick and relatively affordable way to obtain those things. I am definitely not innocent on this one in terms of buying fast furniture and throwing it away either when I no longer need it or when it breaks. In both my previous flat and my flat before that one, I bought cheap bookcases from Argos. If you're not in the UK, Argos is a store where you can order things online and pick them up directly at the store on the same day. And they just have like everything in there. But for the sake of this video, the Argos bookcases were basically the same as the IKEA Billy bookcases, but cheaper and worse, which I regret buying. But I ended up chucking them when I moved out of my last place. I tried to move into this place, but it got damaged when I was trying to disassemble it because flat pack furniture isn't really designed to disassemble and reassemble all the time. In our current place, as you can see behind me, we have a much sturdier bookshelf, which we bought off of Facebook Marketplace, and could definitely be taken from house to house because basically all the shelves and then the wood that connects them can be disassembled. And so like the person selling it to us gave it to us in the shelf and beam format separately and can definitely be moved very easily. I don't own it because this is not my flat, so when I eventually move out, I will be leaving it here with Tom, but if Tom moves in the future, he can take it with him. I definitely don't think that I would completely rule out buying from a fast furniture brand in the future, but when I have my own place or when circumstances change so that I have to move and buy my own furniture, I will try my best to avoid fast furniture companies. And I hope that viewers of interior design content channels don't feel like they need to pick up every new item that these fast furniture brands come out with. However, this overconsumption is not purely limited to fast furniture or to new furniture, but I think it applies to secondhand furniture as well. Buying from Facebook Marketplace or from the thrift store or charity shops is definitely promoted by a lot of interior design YouTubers, which in general I think is a good thing. Buying secondhand is almost always better than buying new, but just because you're buying things secondhand doesn't mean that you're automatically acting in a sustainable way. For example, if you've just moved into your first home and you need a sofa, it completely makes sense to buy one off of Facebook Marketplace, maybe get it reupholstered into a fabric that you like, and keep that sofa forever or until it breaks. I think that's completely fine and a much more sustainable way to furnish your home than buying new furniture. However, if every single year you are moving house, as I have in the last 7 years, and I think a lot of people in big cities do due to increasing rent prices, then buying a new secondhand sofa every year and getting it reupholstered every year because you've lost interest in the first one is not being sustainable. That's creating waste. Even if you're selling on your original sofa, there is still the waste of the fabric that is being thrown away every time. Plus all the other costs like driving to pick up and deliver these pieces of furniture, which I know is the case for new furniture as well, but I just think in general, we want to reduce consumption and we can't buy our way, sorry, the lighting changed, the sun went away. We can't buy our way out of the climate crisis. So as good as it is to buy secondhand furniture and go to the thrift store and donate things and sell things and buy things again through that secondhand market, what would be best is to not keep buying every 6 months or every year or every time you want furniture. Even for smaller items like home decor, a lot of this stuff on Vinted or eBay comes from fast fashion brands like Urban Outfitters or Zara Home. And if you are constantly buying these items, safe in the knowledge that you can sell it or donate it once it has lost its novelty, that is not engaging in sustainability, that is contributing to the cycle of overconsumption. I see plenty of people on interior design YouTube constantly changing out their furniture for new finds on Facebook Marketplace or new finds at the thrift store. It could definitely be the case that they resell these things or give it to a friend who they know will use it, but that isn't always possible for everyone, and I don't think that content creators should normalize changing things out in their home multiple times a year or even annually for big furniture pieces. In fact, I love when I see a content creator move home and utilize what they've had in their previous apartment, whether that's the same bed frame, an old nightstand, an old dresser, the same art that they've been collecting, or whatever it is from their previous homes. Not only do I enjoy getting to come with them on their journey and it feels like I'm actually following them because I recognize the stuff that they have, but I also think it's interesting to see how people can design around an older piece of furniture in a new space. This assumption that shopping secondhand must be sustainable has been a huge problem in the fashion industry over the last few years. I read this excellent article in Vogue that I will also link in the description box, discussing how people often feel like their consumption habits don't count if it's secondhand. The article was quoting a study that was published in Nature that found that people who buy pre-loved clothing tend to buy more than other consumers when it comes to both secondhand and new clothes. And they're often buying and disposing of their clothes very quickly. The majority of shoppers in the study said that they donate their old clothes rather than reselling them. And in the UK, only 10 to 30% of donated clothes in charity shops are resold, and instead the vast majority end up in landfill. And it's not even landfill in the UK. These are being shipped to countries in the global south, with the UK just dumping their waste elsewhere rather than tackling its consumption problem. I'm obviously making an assumption here that this behavior transfers over from fast fashion to fast furniture, which is not 100% the case, especially as furniture is much more expensive than clothing, but I wouldn't be surprised if similar trends ring true. Even just on my street, I see furniture being thrown away all the time, like fly tipping thrown away, and so to me, it doesn't seem like even when people are buying secondhand, that it goes back into the market every time they want to consume something new. You might be thinking to yourself, Isabella, you're telling us not to buy fast furniture, but you're also telling us not to buy secondhand, so what am I supposed to buy? I actually think that both of these things have their place. I think with IKEA, for example, the PAX wardrobe is a great system, and I'm hoping if I can disassemble it without messing it up, that I can take it with me to the next place I live. We have the IKEA pegboard as a place to hang up our pots and pans in our kitchen, and I can't really imagine that being taken down until Tom sells the place, and I imagine he will take that with him. On the other hand, one of our favorite chairs is a secondhand one that we got from Facebook Marketplace in the living room, as is our bookshelf, our dining tables, our dining chairs, and our kitchen chopping block. I'm not saying don't buy secondhand, and I'm not saying don't buy fast furniture. I just think what's important is to not overconsume in general. So yes, buying secondhand is more sustainable than buying something new, but feeding into a cycle where people are constantly buying and selling and donating rather than thinking about, okay, do I need to buy a new thing every year, is probably not the way to go. The next thing that I want to talk about is the huge problem of painting. Whenever I watch a room makeover on YouTube, it's very clear to me that the biggest changes tend to come from painting the room. I think that people in the comments respond much more to rooms that have been painted because it feels like a big change. Injecting color into a space or even giving a room a fresh lick of white paint makes a huge difference in how a room feels. With recent trends like color drenching, it feels like painting and doing a lot of it has become expected and become the norm in these kinds of interior design content. However, I feel like paint is such a problem when it comes to sustainability. There are lots of different types of paint on the market, and some are a lot worse for the environment than others. One of the biggest mistakes I made when decorating our flat, and definitely the thing that I regret the most, because I also promoted it on my YouTube channel at the time, so if you've watched that video, please ignore it. I was so determined to save money at the time because it was like the first time I was moving somewhere unfurnished, and I was buying a bed and a wardrobe and a nightstand, and I was buying all these things. And so I decided to get a paint sample from a company called Coat, which makes beautiful paint colors, and get that color mixed in a paint by a cheaper company. Also, sorry if I'm looking to the side, this is where my laptop notes are. While this was good for my wallet, like it was much cheaper, it was really bad for the environment, and so I regret doing that and not just waiting. Coat has been a carbon neutral business since it started, which has also been third-party verified, and they participate in carbon offsetting projects. Something that I think that is particularly good that they do as a company is that they are very transparent about their level of carbon emission, and they publish a report on their sustainability practices that everyone can read. This video is obviously not sponsored by Coat, especially because in previous videos I said to not use them, to buy a cheaper brand. But I just appreciate the transparency of the brand. And when I first moved into this flat, I just focused on the fact that they made really nice colors and dismissed the importance of using my money to pay for a brand committed to making more sustainable choices. I should have waited until I had the money to afford paint from a more climate conscious company. Like, I didn't need to paint any part of this house, so I really should have just waited. There are lots of other eco-friendly paint brands in the UK that I could have chosen as well, like Farrow and Ball, Little Green, Lick, House of Hackney, and all of these brands do tend to be more expensive, but I think it's important for me, and possibly for you too, to remind myself that home decorating and doing things like buying furniture or painting your house or buying decor or whatever it is a luxury and a privilege. I definitely should have saved up and been a more conscious consumer, and if I had to buy more paint in the future, I will be buying it from one of those brands. Obviously, I will be using up the paint that I have for now, but it's just something that I definitely want to invest in if I move house in the future. Another benefit of these more eco-friendly brand paints is that they tend to have lower VOCs. VOCs can contribute to low indoor air quality and potentially adverse health effects. VOC paints also tend to be more odorous than low VOC paints, and in my very anecdotal experience, I definitely had to sleep in the living room for a few nights when I painted my bedroom because the smell was very strong, and I was like, I feel like I'm going to get some kind of illness if I sleep in this room. It's not just the paint itself that's a problem, it's also a huge problem in terms of disposing the paint. You cannot wash paint down the sink, which is something that I did not realize until quite recently. Not only can it clog your pipes and eventually clog the sewers, it also releases chemicals into the water that pollute the ground. What you actually have to do is either buy new paintbrushes every time, which can also contribute to waste, or wash your paintbrushes not in the sink, but in like a separate container, like a bucket of soapy water, and then get something to absorb that water like cat litter or cardboard, and then you can dispose of that solid that has absorbed the water in the normal way. I definitely did not know this when I was painting, and I feel really terrible that I rinsed my brushes in the sink, but I definitely will not do that in the future. Finally, there are so many bits around painting that do need to be thrown away, which is why I'm like very anti people constantly repainting their house. Like, I think there's so many content creators that kind of every 6 months they're like, I'm gonna paint my house a different color. And it's difficult because I understand that interior design and like creating this content brings joy to both the creator and to the consumer, but because of how much waste it creates, I just think that there are other ways to do that, like rearranging your furniture, rearranging the decor around your house. I think there's been actually a big trend in like $0 makeovers, which I've really enjoyed and appreciated. Paige Wassel just came out with a video recently where she was talking about like changes to make for your home in summer, and I really liked that a lot of them were free. It was like bringing your outdoor plants indoors, or there was another free one that I can't remember. Oh, I think it was like finding branches off the ground outside and like bringing them into your house and things like that. And I think it's really good that we're seeing more of a shift towards this. But anyway, on to painting waste. For example, rollers are basically impossible to clean, and you would run into the same problem of disposing paint. We did actually make an attempt to clean ours, again by washing them down the sink, as we didn't know any better, and in the future I will not do that. But they were obviously not the same even when we washed it, and you do actually need to buy new ones every time. Same with paint trays, you need to find a way to appropriately clean them or keep buying new ones. We also ended up using a lot of cling film to wrap our brushes and rollers so they stayed wet when we took a break from painting, and all of that plastic had to be thrown away too. There are some things that I think I did well in the painting process. I thought long and hard about the color I wanted to paint each room we painted and looked at lots of different swatches. As I mentioned, I think it's really wasteful to paint your rooms over and over again each year, so I definitely think taking your time when deciding is really important so that you're happy with the color. Someone I really love watching here on YouTube is Emily from the channel Beige Flannel. She makes loads of her own furniture using paper mache, which is so cool. And if you're gonna take what I said about not using fast furniture and secondhand furniture seriously, which is obviously not what I was saying, but if you are, she makes paper mache furniture, which is like just using waste and recycling it and reusing it, which is really cool. But anyway, what I was actually gonna say about her channel is that she always uses her leftover wall paint on her furniture rather than always buying new paint colors, and I think that's like such a good way to approach using up what you already have. Similarly, if there is a ready-made color from a brand that you know you like, see if you can find used paint cans on Facebook Marketplace. I see Farrow and Ball half-used tins of paint on Facebook Marketplace all the time. And because an estimated 50 to 55 million liters of paint goes to waste in the UK each year, it would be really good if you could pass on your paint to someone that would want to use it, or if you can take on someone else's potentially wasted paint, which is not only good for the environment, but is also good for your wallet, because these Farrow and Ball paints are very discounted on Facebook Marketplace. In the UK, there's also an organization called Community Repaint, which is in partnership with Dulux, which is not the most sustainable paint brand, but you know, people can be multifaceted. Anyway, they help collect leftover paint and redistribute it, so I will leave the link in the description below in case you have paint that you want to be collected and redistributed. It's also important to only buy the paint that you need. It might be a little bit more expensive, for example, to buy like 2 separate 1-liter tins of paint or a liter and half a liter rather than a 2-liter tin. But if you don't end up opening the other one, then at least you can return it rather than that paint going to waste. The next time that I paint, I will definitely be using the paint that we already have and making sure that I dispose of any and all paint properly. In the future, when I hopefully buy my own place, I will definitely spend more time saving up to buy a more climate conscious paint brand and consider further if I really need to paint a room at all, or if I just think that I need to do because, was that a sentence? Or if I just think I need to paint the room because of recent trends in interior design. Sometimes a room doesn't need painting. I will finally stop talking about paint now and move on to the problem of the demonization of certain styles on interior design YouTube. Those styles tend to be things like millennial gray, 2016 boho, dopamine decor, shabby chic, farmhouse, and so many more. A lot of interior design advice on YouTube talks about how it's really important to have personal design style and not just follow trends. Initially, from a sustainability standpoint, and also just like a design standpoint, that is something I definitely agree with. If you are blindly following trends, then in a few months, it is likely that you will no longer like the items in your home or what your home looks like, and you'll just spend more money, time, and resources buying new things. This also means that your old, previously trendy items will go in the bin, creating more waste sent to landfill, or enter the secondhand market, which, as I mentioned before, could also just end up in landfill. I think everyone would agree that that is a bad thing to do. The problem is that I think most of these people watching these advice videos are not people who are starting their home from scratch. They are people who already own things. They may be in a millennial gray home, or at least taken a millennial gray sofa from an older sibling. They may have been given a piece of dopamine decor from one of their friends as a gift, or given a hand-me-down shabby chic or farmhouse dresser from their parents. And they may have a Kallax for storing their board games, or a macrame that their friend made for hanging their plants. And interior design YouTube will slate them for having those things because they are part of trends that are no longer trendy. Viewers who are maybe younger and still figuring out their personal style in their first home away from their parents then might feel pressured to get rid of those things and buy new things to replace them, or switch out their furniture to something that doesn't fit within those specific design styles that are, as I said, pretty demonized on YouTube. I think truly good design would be learning to design around those things and understanding that yes, sometimes things are purchased as part of a trend, and while it would be best not to purchase those things in the first place, the rampant hatred of those certain trends doesn't really foster an environment of less waste and less consumption. It just makes people kind of feel bad about the stuff that they own and think they have to get rid of it. I also think that many interior design YouTubers who purport to hate certain trends have very much assisted in creating those very trends in the first place. For example, I've seen so many videos in the last month about how mid-century modern is no longer trending, or how brown as a neutral has been overdone, even though those things became popular as a response to trends like millennial gray or dopamine decor, and the people slating those trends are also the people promoting these new trends that are apparently no longer trendy. I may not love a gray couch, but I don't think we need to be so extremist in what looks nice and what doesn't. One of my favorite makeovers I've ever seen on YouTube was Caroline Winkler's kitchen makeover in her previous apartment. Her kitchen had outdated cabinets in a wood that was not particularly trendy, but instead of trying to cover it up or change it, she worked around it. This was partially because she was a renter, but I think even if you own your own home, that's something you should consider. Not everything needs to be changed and renovated all the time. She also did a recent video making over a subscriber's home who had these gray floral sofas from her grandmother, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna tell her to reupholster those, and then that fabric's gonna get thrown away, or she's gonna have to buy a new couch. But instead, they just worked around the sofas and they looked really good in the final design. And so I think it's fine to have your millennial gray sofa. I'm not really a fan, I guess, of hating on any trend because I think there's always something to be gained from it. It's okay if it's not your personal style, but unless you're someone who's designing your home from scratch, they probably have at least some element of one of those trends in their home, and it's okay to utilize that. Less online and more in my personal life, I've definitely expressed disdain towards certain trends or styles, but I'm trying to see how to work with those styles rather than against them. The final problem on interior design YouTube that, in my opinion, contributes to a lot of waste and is not particularly sustainable is that there always seems to be a huge rush to complete or finish a makeover. I see a lot of content where the title will call out like, doing a bedroom makeover in one day, completing this bedroom makeover in one weekend. Often this doesn't seem to be for a particular reason, like having guests to stay in that room or people who are helping them with the space only being available during that time. It tends to be a bit of an arbitrary deadline to add more tension to the video and more keywords to the title. And I will say, I understand that like for content creators, this is their job and they might have a schedule to keep to, but you can also decide to not put that in the title, because then I think it makes your audience feel like, oh, I need to be able to do this in one day or one weekend, rather than designing in a way that I think is more normal, which is like slowly accumulating things over time. I think that approaching design in this way can often result in buying items that you don't love that you end up throwing away later down the line, or items that don't necessarily suit the functionality of the room. I 100% made this mistake when I was first designing my bedroom when I moved into this flat. I don't think I filmed that at the time for YouTube, as I was more focused on the common spaces that you can see behind me, but I put such an unnecessary pressure on myself to make my bedroom look designed from the beginning, because I was like consuming so much interior design content on the internet, that I bought two things that I have now gotten rid of a year later, which was such a waste. The first was the lampshade that I had over the pendant light in my room. I had the giant paper lantern from IKEA for a year because everyone online was talking about how it looked really nice and I thought it looked really nice in their spaces. But I didn't consider the fact that these were usually spaces with very tall ceilings and that my bedroom is short. So every day for a year, I was hitting my head on this lampshade and struggling to change my sheets because I couldn't shake my duvet around and convincing myself that I liked it. If you watched my recent bedroom makeover, then you would see that I did switch out this lamp and put the old one in recycling because it was made of paper. And although I could recycle it, and it was like £5, it was still a waste in my mind for that shade to be manufactured, shipped to an IKEA store, shipped to my house, just for me to throw away a year later. Similarly, not to villainize IKEA in this video, because they do make a lot of things that I like and I think that they are really useful for certain things. When I first made my PAX wardrobe, I decided to buy the drawers rather than the wire pull-out baskets because I thought the drawers looked better. And this could be user error, or it could be a problem with the product, but those drawers collapsed like less than a year later after buying them, and then I had to buy the wire baskets anyway so that they wouldn't collapse. Luckily, there's nothing else in our flat that I'm actually not happy with in terms of decor, and I think that's because of budget constraints at the time. We just had like a lot of stuff as hand-me-downs. Like I used these side tables that my grandma had as nightstands for ages until I could save up for the nightstands that I wanted. And as I mentioned before, like loads of our stuff is, I guess, like better quality things that we bought secondhand on Facebook Marketplace. And we've just like very slowly accumulated over time. Things like we've lived in this flat for a year now, and it was only like last month that I finally bought a lamp for my desk because I was like, I want to actually like the thing that I'm using and take the time to figure out what I want. In general, I think that the idea of putting these time constraints to like rush on changing a whole room in your home often leads to shopping habits that are more wasteful, and it's important to take your time because that is like the way that people normally accumulate things. It's not normal to buy like all of the art for your house at once or buy all of the furniture and paint your whole room in one weekend. And I don't think we need to be doing that. So those are some of the sustainability problems that I think that interior design YouTube has, and like the mistakes that I've definitely made on my own channel. I hope that you enjoyed the video and it gave you some things to think about when you're viewing content, but also when you are designing your own home. If you like this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and comment down below anything you would like to comment down below, whether that's anything I missed or ways that you are trying to make your love for interior design more sustainable. If you would like to see more videos like this from me, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post a new video.